if you have ever used any language, so in Java, for example, when I define a variable a, I had to specify what kind of variable it is. Is it an integer? Is it a string? So in the slots, you have to define what kind of value you want to hold. Is it going to be Boolean value, categorical, float, list, or unfeatureized? Unfeatureized is where if you define something as unfeatured, so say for example, I defined I want to hold a slot for location, and I type that the type is unfeatureized. Then what happens is when I say I'm looking for a hospital in San Francisco, and then I asked a follow-up question, show me a nearby nursing home as well, it won't be able to reuse that value. This is you might be, and why we would mark something as unfeatured. Say you want to log something in your application log that user provided entity location as San Francisco. They were asking for hospital and all that. So those are those type of thing you can mark them as unfeatured. They're not going to influence your flow. Okay. So let's see how we can add a slot. So we're going to follow the next exercise. I think exercise is 3. We did 2. I think it's exercise 3, I believe. Yep. So for the first thing we're going to do is, oh wait, did I miss something over here? Exercise 2 is done. I think I might have misplaced some of the values. Okay, so we are going to first go ahead and add a slot in our location like this. And right now we're defining as X. So these we need to define again in our domain that we want to add something. So I'm going to add it in the domain that I want to hold 2 type of things in my memory, location and facility type. That's all I need right now. I think I marked up the exercise numbers in there, but let me just go there. Okay. Okay. So after we added, now we want to add some actions. So what we're going to do is, where do you define those custom actions? So for that, we have to define that value in actions.py file. So if I open my action.py file, so in your action.py file, you'll see that you have these, everything is commented out, and here is an example of how you would reply back with a custom hello. Okay, so we're going to change this, and we're going to look at action.py file. So what we need to do is we need to enable everything, and here we're going to simply define our action and what is the text. So the action file consists of 2 main methods. One is a name and one is a run. Name is where you define your action name. It's it just returns the text value back as is. And the next one is where you specify what you want to do. So we want to right now reply back with the simple message. Instead of giving an exact address in Charlotte for a hospital, right now I simply want to utter that here is the dummy address. For every request you ask, whether it is a hospital in Charlotte or in Washington, we right now want to see how the action works. So we're going to add this over here. Okay. So opening the story exercise again. So we're going to add this, and now we'll try and run our story. I think I'm mixing up a couple of things over here. Define name, run, before we add something, update the name. Okay, so I'm going to open my action.py class from the live workshop. I'm just going to change the values here. It will take a long time. Let me just copy paste quickly. Only 30 minutes. Okay. So close this. So now if I go and train my model again, let me stop this quickly. So while it trains, let me walk you through the next steps. What will happen? So after we train and we are going to run the test, we would be seeing the error that bot tries to call the action. When we try to do something like this, I need a hospital, can you specify, and so on and so forth. So what will happen is, even though you have defined your actions right, now you need to tell how to run those actions. So the way it works is, all of these are Python files. They need to be running somewhere on the server, right? So we have to first, to run them on the server, we have to define what is the server URL where these files are getting deployed. So those are getting defined in your endpoints. So for example, let's say you don't want to maintain complex code. Say you have all your action files, all your Python file, or it could be Java file, where they're running on some server, right? Not in your local, they're running somewhere else where the action files are being hosted, Python file are being hosted. So you need to define that URL. So for that, what you have to do is you have to open your endpoints.yaml file and say that this is where my files will be hosted. So right now I'm hosting these Python file on my local. It will be running on 5055 port on my local. So Windows, I came to know that it doesn't allow combination of command. Otherwise, I could have run everything in one command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to cd c Dinesh live workshop and move to my Honda activate workshop. And the first thing I want to do is run my host my files first. So I'm going to say Rasa run actions. So the command. Yep, Rasa run actions. So it is going to run that particular command over here. And you should see the message that your Python file is loaded and it is running. And now on the other window, I'm going to say, now I want to test my chatbot and see if I get the message back as here's a dummy address. Okay, so you'll see that that action facility search is registered, and now when the chatbot is going to run, it is going to call the action search facility class over that particular URL. So I'll wait for it to complete. Okay, so say hi. I just want to say I need a hospital. It's going to ask me. I'm going to reply back with Charlotte, and now I should be seeing that message back. Here is the dummy address. So if you see, it has now responded back with here is the dummy address response. So which means that our custom action is working, and then in the subsequent exercise we'll see how to connect the whole thing by calling a government website, Medicare website. We're going to connect it. Okay, So before we move on to that, there are a few other things which we need to learn. Something about policies. So this is the thing which I was talking about, that how is it able to manage the context even before we define the slots, right? When we said that I need a hospital, and then the next question asked is where, we say Charlotte. It is able to connect that the word Charlotte is connected, is a response in the context of I need a hospital, right? So how is it able to do that? That is something we do it with the policies. So policies help handle you any stupid question, side chit chat that a customer may do, and then the bot can automatically bring them back to the flow. So for example, um, we are asking for a medical facility, and while the bot is searching, the person can ask that, see, do you have parents? The bot can reply with something, no, I was built in a lab, but if that is all you have and you have any other question, then I can help you with finding a medical facility, nursing home, and so on and so forth, so that customer can be brought back onto the track for which the chatbot was built. Or if the customer starts saying the weather is good, but it has been raining for last two days, the bot can reply back with one of the canned responses. Oh, good to hear that you're having a great time. Is there anything else that I can help you regarding medical facilities? So each time you can train the bot to bring the customer back to the flow, so that if customer digresses away from the topic, those can be handled by the policies. You can also design an alternate flow when you're not certain about when you don't understand what customer is saying, and you may have a situation where you may want to do something else. For example, since this bot is for defining the medical facility, right? So somebody says, I'm dying of heart attack, give me a hospital, and say the bot doesn't understand it. It can try to rephrase, can you be more specific? The customer tries a second time, third time. You don't want to continue getting stuck in that loop, right? Because it's a critical situation. Customer may die. So after third attempt, you may say that, okay, I tried 3 times, I didn't understand. Let me connect you to a live call center agent, and he can probably help you out. So those are the stuff that you can control using policies. So one of the example that I was talking about, right? Customer kept on saying the same sentence over and over again. The bot tries, and then at the end it says, sorry, I cannot help you. Do you want to be connected to customer care agent? So it can handle all that situation using the policies. The next thing we need to understand is something, how is it able to handle unexpected questions or unexpected scenarios? So the way it does is it tries to connect the small stories and tries to form different combinations. So if you look at it, say you provide only 3 stories, right? Thanks, greet, and bye, right? So the bot will try to create multiple alternate combination. Greet, utter greet, thanks, utter you're welcome. Second story, these are the stories you'll try to create on its own. That greet, utter greet, bye, utter bye. Then it is going to combine these two together and create one more flow. So that is why you'll see that many times when something is not being captured in the story flow or in the NLP model, he'll try to see, I create some extra stories. Does it match with any of the existing stories that I've done? And how many stories it creates? Does it create 2 story, 3 story? That is again, you can control it by data augmentation command. So what that happens is, if you want to use this command, right, I would be specifying something like this: Rasa train, and then 2 hyphens augmentation 20. So something like this. I won't run it because the last time I tried it took like a really long time. I'll explain why. So if when I'm training it, right, when I say Rasa train and I provide augmentation equal to 20, it will try to create those many stories. Not those many, it'll try to create 20 combination of each. So by 20 combination, what I mean is, by default, it tries to create 10 combination of stories. When I say 10 combination of stories, uh, so what it's going to do is it'll take up happy path flow, combine it with the sad path, and then it'll try to combine happy path with sad path 2, happy path with say goodbye, happy path with bot challenge. It'll try to create those many, and it try to do it for next 10 intents. So by default, it is done with one story into 10. When I specify that augmentation factor is 20, it is going to create 200 stories. So you will see that using machine learning, it is going to combine different stories to come up with more stories so that it can handle unexpected scenario. And that is where it beats the rule-based model hands down, right? So, but higher augmentation also means better performance. But when you try to train, right, then what will happen is your training time is going to go significantly up. You don't have to provide a very high augmentation number. If you have like too many stories defined, for example, you already identified that there will be like a 10 search hospital scenario and you've defined them, you don't have to provide a higher augmentation number, because in the end it is going to create some of the stories which you've already defined. So you can keep the number low if you have too many stories. If you have few stories and you want the bot to figure out a different scenario, then you might want to keep an augmentation number somewhere in the range of 10 to 15. So what are the different type of policies and where you'll find this policy? So if you actually see, there is a you've already seen it probably. It's in the config.yaml file. You have the some of the policies defined: memoization policy, TED policy, mapping policy, and so on and so forth, right? So these are the like 5 or 6 main kind of policies on there. The simplest of them is the memoization policy. So what it does, it tries to memorize the user text from the sample, and if the sample matches accurately, it returns a confidence of 1 and 0. Otherwise it returns a null. You can set a max history from default and then change. So by default, the story is the number of chat it can remember is up to 5. So what do I mean it creates from sample, right? So what happens is when you try and specify the exact same word, you specify hey for greeting, the bot is going to reply back, and then you ask an exact sentence, I need a hospital, and if it matches exactly as is, that's when the memorization comes into play. It is able to give you exact match, so confidence level will be 100%, and it is going to come back with the exact response and remember some of the previous stuff. So in memorization, the value is either 0 or 1, and you can specify how many conversation back it should look back. So for example, if I provided the word Charlotte as a location 5 sentences ago, it will be able to remember that and come back with that. If I provide as 10, it can go and look all the way back, that is a location slot available in my previous 10 conversation if I update these values. And epoch is the another hyper parameter you can set, that is for training it 100 times, going over the data, and so is multiple time. You can specify how many time it can happen. So memorization policy is the simplest of all. The next one is the mapping policy. So this policy is used to map it to an action. So at any given point of time, you can only map it to one action. So the bot will run and then perform an action and then come back and listen for a customer response. So one example is say you try to say some gibberish and the bot doesn't understand. Then you can specify that if you don't understand, ask the customer to rephrase the question. So the bot will reply, can you rephrase your question? And it'll wait for customer to respond back. So for example, if let me just type it over here. So for example, I type something random. and the bot will reply, can you rephrase? And in my first my first chat, I had specified uh, find me a hospital, and the bot asked me what location. Okay, and then I typed something gibberish. If it didn't understand it, I can specify the bot, can you rephrase, and then it wait for customer to reply back. If customer comes back with the word as Charlotte, then it is going to map it. So this piece, can you rephrase? This is where we specify that if you don't understand, take an action on it by asking the customer, can you rephrase? And when the customer replies with the exact word Charlotte, then it is able to look back that, okay, I need to connect Charlotte with something that was asked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conversation ago. So Charlotte is in reference with the find me a hospital context, and that is how it is able to figure out what's happening here, and is able to connect an intent with the question which was asked 5 generation ago, right? um, so here is a one, right? So if I say, hello, I'm looking for a hospital, where are you based? And then instead of replying back with a location, if I say, am I speaking to a bot, it can reply back with a standard response and try to bring you back. So what you do is you define in your intent that if somebody asks a question like, am I speaking to a bot, then you need to define the keyword at triggers and then say action is bot. So what you do is in your NLU.md, I'm going to, I already have somebody ask a bot challenge. And then in the stories, I need to simply define that if somebody asks this question, I can use it at triggers over here. And then I can specify whatever is the trigger, right? So I can copy all of these values over here, and my story, I can simply reply in my, sorry, not in story, in my domain, I can go and specify that anytime somebody asks my identity, simply reply back with utter I am bot. So what I'll do is in my triggers, I'll specify trigger with this value. Didn't copy it correctly. Control C, Control V. So now whenever somebody asks me about my identity, am I about anything, it'll simply trigger this and will every time reply back with an answer, I'm a bot powered by Rasa. So that's how you can change the value and set your trigger with the mapping policy, and then after that it is going to wait, and then we'll be able to connect back. Okay, and so the KRAS policies is the interesting one. This is where your main machine learning comes into picture. So by default, the default algorithm is used is LSTM long short term memory. With Keras, you can apply your RNN, which helps you predict the next best action. What was the last action, and what entities and intended we have already extracted. How should we combine the sentences and fill in missing pieces based on the previous conversation. So it uses all that and try to come up with the best decision. So to understand what happens is when a customer asks, I'm looking for a hospital in San Francisco, it tries to identify the intent and extract the entities. Just like we saw in the, when we try to do Rasa shell NLU, we see intent and entity broken down, right? With a confidence percentage, it tries to do that. And from then onward, based on what policy we are using, if you are using a KRAS policy, it applies the RNN algorithm and then comes up with the next best action. If the actions comes back with an address and we want to save that address for any future question, then it'll try to dump it in the slot. We'll see this example shortly, and then going to reply back. So now, for example, if customer came back, the bot came back with this address, and it is also saving the address. How it can be used is, say my next follow-up question is, by the way, at this hospital address, can you also show me few restaurants? So if a follow-up question is, can you also show me a restaurant? It knows that I'm asking for a restaurant based on the address which I returned previously, 300 Hyde Street. So that is how it is. The RNN algorithm can combine multiple things and give you back the values. The last two are the simplest one, and we'll see that. It's called form policy and fallback policy. So form policy is say, for example, when you don't want customer to digress from the path, right? And you want very specific answers. So for example, if customer says, I'm looking for a facility, he hasn't provided that what facility, but the bot only caters, understand three type of facility: hospitals, nursing home, and emergency room. So in those cases, to avoid bot to go away or digress from the path, it can come back with the three option and ask you, by facility, do you mean one, hospital, nursing home, or emergency room? And customer has to choose from one of these three. So that way it can able to control the dialog flow here. So that is where form policy come into picture. Or sometimes it can be used for places where the bot did not understand but is able to do a partial match. So for example, if the bot comes, if a customer says, I'm looking for a restaurant, right? And the bot didn't understand whether it is he's asking about a restaurant or a medical facility, because it hasn't seen the word restaurant before and it doesn't cater to those sort of requests. It can ask a follow-up question that did you mistype? Are you looking for, did you mean hospital, emergency room, or nursing home? So those sort of stuff can be controlled by form policy. And form policy and fallback policy sometimes go hand in hand. So what is fallback policy? Fallback policy is where you don't want a customer to go in a loop when the bot didn't understand anything. So if let me see if it is running. Chatbot, okay, it stopped. But if I keep asking my chatbot something really stupid, right? How old are you? It'll simply say greet or buy. It won't be able to identify with any of the NLP. So I can keep typing and it'll keep replying back me with some random responses. But in case of a live chatbot where somebody is it's a living or it's a life or death situation, you want to stop at some point and let a human step in, right? So for those sort of steps, you will define the fallback policy that after 3 tries, I don't want you to take a stab on doing something. I'll hand off to a live. Okay, I'm going to hand off to a live member support. So that is where a fallback policy come into picture. We have roughly 4 minutes. So what I'll do is the last exercise, it's a long one. What I'll do is I'll simply show you how that policy, how the policies are working. Let me close this. I'll show you the last piece. You can follow it up. So if I open up the last exercise, the 6th one. So you'll see that I've updated the policies to memorization policy, TED policy, mapping, KERAS, and 2-stage fallback policy. So 2-stage fallback is before handing off to a live person. If I want to try to recover from an exception where I say that, did you mean hospital and not restaurant, and customer replies with some gibberish and it still didn't understand, try to correct it one more time. Do you really mean that it's not gibberish and not a hospital or nursing home? So he'll try it 2 times, and even if it didn't understand in the second try, then it'll trigger the last fallback option. Okay, I don't understand what you're saying. I tried twice trying to bring you back to the flow, but now I'll hand off to a third party, which could be a live person or somebody over the phone, right? So I updated these, and then in my actions.file is where I'm trying to connect with the government data website. So on this website, we have a different code for a hospital, nursing home. So this, when I call this URL, it gives me all the hospital nursing home in US. And what I'm doing is I'm using the slots to capture that I'm looking for a hospital in say zip code 352205. So it is going to return me those values back. Right? So that piece of code I've defined that this is the government resource, and XY is, this code is for searching hospital, this is for nursing home, this is for home health agencies. And these are the type: facility type, nursing home, home health agencies, which come back. This is a very generic code. If you have ever written a HTTP request in Python or in any language, it is a very standard one. We have to import the request and simply make a call. And the way it is happening is I'm trying to get the values that give me the zip code query person has provided a zip code, or give me the city person has provided city, and I'm creating a whole URL. So when I say URL, I'm looking for XYZ JSON, and I'm trying to call the city query or zip code query. So I'm simply appending the value over here, that replace, if it is a zip code for a hospital, replace the value and create the URL and call the URL. Okay, so let me change this to live one hub project. So workshop session 2, exercise 6. Okay, and I need to start the next one. Workshop. So this is the last piece. I'm just using this. I think that text size is really long. It'll take me forever to cover it. Let me open this. Size 6. I want to run the actions first. While this is running, I'll just start the Rasa shell here in the background. So this model which I created, right? So if you would look, I have added a lot more data in there, and that is why I didn't have to go and add like augment that data to create multiple stories. So I added many different type of greeting, many different type of these, and some of the extra city, state, all these have been provided, and I added multiple way customer can ask a query over here. So other than that, so now if I say find me a hospital, so now it is looking up the code, what I'm supposed to do. So if I say Charlotte, failed to extract form, facility form. Did I misplace something? 1 second. Okay, so let me do this. Let me just do with hi. I think I have some code issue in this one. So Okay, let me okay. So now here's the example of form, right? So it didn't understand something in the wrong, but so now it tried to bring me back to the flow where it is asking me, what do I need to do? I said, find me a nursing home. Okay. So if I type this, it is making a call, and then it's asking me where should I find it. So if I say Washington, supposed to give me a value back. Okay, let's see, hospital. Oh wait, hold on. I think I made a mistake. Let me restart this. Is my Rasa shell working? Yep, it's connecting now. Let me see if I'm make sure I'm not missing any steps anywhere. I updated all of this. Rasa train. Yep, I think I'm good. Okay, if I say hi. Okay, so now by default it will try to ask me something, and I said look for a hospital, and now I provide a zip code. Let's see if it is able to do something with it. I was messing up with the okay. So now it found 3 addresses here in Charlotte, Sparrow, Eaton Hospital, and now it is asking that out of these 3 hospital, do you want to find which hospital address do you want to find? So I'm going to say give me an address for Novant Health. So again, it is going to go back, look up the service, and it comes back with the address as 8210 loop. Okay, so now to show you that how it maintained the history. Now if I ask again for a hospital, right? What did it had asked me for a hospital. So let me ask hospital again. This time it's not going to ask me for an zip code or a city, because now it is maintaining that, and it is going to say here are the 3 ones, right? But now if I want to say,
hey, Dinesh, we have 1 minute left.
Yeah, I'm done. This is the last example. I think we'll be done. Find a hospital in say Virginia, and it decides to.
Sorry, if it cuts out, can we spin up the meeting again so we can give you a round of applause?
Sure. So yeah, so now you can see it is able to find an address in Virginia, but I had to specify this time that now I'm not looking for a hospital in Charlotte, but it's in Virginia, and that's how it'll work. So it's a big code. You can just use the file as is, and that's how you understand that I'm asking for a hospital for the same location. To come out of that, I can ask, okay, I look for Charlotte, now show me hospital in Virginia, and then it is able to figure out that this is for a new search in a different location, and it'll give you the value back. So right now it'll show that the address is for Virginia. I don't know if you're able to see things in view over here. And now if I ask for like a home health agency, I think the time might have passed, so it might not recognize. It might come back and ask me for a location. Yeah, it's still there. So let me see what is the form policy defined over here. So okay, so by default, I haven't specified anything. Last time you saw that it was set to 60 second. Where did we define that? Yeah, 60. Oh, this is 60 minute actually, not seconds. So you can specify that value, and for next 60 minutes, it's going to remember my conversation and come back. So now if I asked for a home health agency, it came back with the same Virginia address for me. So that's all I had for this session. All the files are uploaded there. Last exercise is like really long. I was wondering if I should do it live. So I've instead put everything in the file over there. You can just download the file for action.py and then see how it is getting connected to backend and giving back the results.
Thanks.
Sure.
I just want to I just want to say thanks because this is really complete. I'm like
there are like if you actually go to their